You wake up to the sound of your alarm. It's 7:14 in the morning. The same song on the radio, the same coffee stain on the kitchen counter, the same notification on your phone. You've seen this morning before. You've seen it 1,000 times before. And the worst part is, you will see it again tomorrow, because tomorrow never comes. Today is all there is. Today is all there has ever been. For the past 365 days, you have opened your eyes at exactly 7:14, heard the exact same DJ say the exact same words, watched the same sunlight crawl across the same wall in the same pattern, and every single time you remember everything, every loop, every death, every mistake, every victory that gets erased at midnight. Everyone else forgets. You never do. That is the deal. That is the curse. Now you might think a time loop sounds fun. A chance to redo things, to learn skills, to live without consequences. And for a while, it is. But this is not a movie. This is not a comedy. This is a prison built from a single day. And the day you're trapped inside is the worst day of your life. So let me walk you through what an entire year inside a time loop actually looks like. The obsession, the madness, the loneliness, and eventually the impossible, painstaking, heartbreaking escape. This is the story of 365 identical days, and the one person who had to live through all of them. Let me tell you what happens on this day. At 7:14 in the morning, you wake up in your apartment in the city. By 8:30, you're on the subway heading to work. At 9:47, a massive earthquake tears through the downtown core. Not a small tremor, not a warning. A catastrophic, city-shattering earthquake that collapses buildings, ruptures gas lines, and traps thousands of people under rubble. The first time it happens, you're in the subway. The tunnel cracks, the train lurches, lights die, and for 6 agonizing hours, you stumble through a collapsing city trying to find anyone at all who can help. Fires spread, people scream, the hospital overflows, and by midnight, you're sitting in the dark next to a woman you tried to save but couldn't, and the world goes black, and then the alarm rings. 7:14, the same song, the same coffee stain. At first you think you dreamed it. A nightmare, a vivid, horrible nightmare. You go through your morning in a daze. You step onto the subway at 8:30, and at 9:47 the ground splits open again. The same earthquake, the same collapsed buildings, the same screaming, the same woman, dying in the same spot. This time you know it's real. This time you try to run. You try to warn people. Nobody listens. Nobody believes you. Why would they? You're a stranger on a train telling them the world is about to end. The earthquake hits at 9:47, and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. You die again. The alarm rings. Mawartine, the same song. And you realize, with a slow, cold horror crawling up your spine, that you are trapped. The first week of the loop is pure panic. You spend every single iteration trying to stop the earthquake. You call emergency services. You call the mayor's office. You call geological institutes. You scream into phones that no one will ever answer. Because at 9:47, the ground opens up and everyone who might have helped you is buried. You try evacuating the subway. You run through the train cars shouting at people to get off, to run, to get to high ground. Most of them stare at you. A few call security. One man shoves you against the wall. And then the earthquake comes and everyone dies anyway. You try different approaches. You memorize the locations of gas lines and shut them off manually. You steal a fire truck and drive it through the streets with the siren blaring. You break into the control room at the subway station and pull the emergency stop lever. Nothing works. The earthquake is not something a single person can prevent. It is a tectonic event. It is the planet itself shifting beneath your feet. No amount of shouting, no amount of planning, no amount of desperation can stop it. By the end of the first week, you have died 14 times, crushed by falling concrete, burned in a gas fire, trapped under a collapsed subway tunnel, slowly suffocating in the dark. Each death is agonizing. Each death resets at midnight, and each morning you wake up remembering every single one of them. The panic gives way to something worse, frustration, a burning, consuming frustration that makes you want to tear the walls apart. Because you have all this knowledge. You know what's coming. You know exactly when and where the earthquake will strike, and none of it matters. The universe doesn't care what you know. It just keeps repeating, day after day, death after death. And somewhere around the 2-week mark, you stop trying to stop the earthquake. Not because you've given up, but because something else starts pulling at your mind. A question. A dangerous, liberating, terrifying question. If nothing I do matters, if it all resets at midnight, then what am I allowed to do? And just like that, the loop becomes a playground. No consequences, no memory but your own. No rules except the ones you choose to follow. You start small. You walk out of your apartment, and instead of going to the subway, you go the other direction. You walk to the park. You sit on a bench. You watch the trees sway in the wind. And for a few hours, you pretend the earthquake isn't coming. It comes anyway, but for a moment, you felt something close to peace. And you get bolder. You walk into a bank and ask for a loan. You walk into a restaurant and order everything on the menu. You walk into a store, pick up a guitar and smash it on the floor. Nobody remembers tomorrow. Nobody presses charges. Nobody cares. And something inside you starts to crack open. Not in a bad way. In a wild, electric way. You realize you can do anything. Literally anything. You can learn to fly a plane. You can learn a language. You can walk up to a stranger and pour your heart out. You can be brave in ways you never were before. Because rejection doesn't exist. Humiliation doesn't exist. Failure doesn't exist. Tomorrow, everyone forgets. Only you remember. And so the era of experiments begins. You spend 10 loops learning to pick locks. You spend 20 loops learning basic engineering. You read every book in the library, 1 per day, because the knowledge stays even when the pages don't. You learn first aid. You learn structural engineering. You learn how fires spread through a city. You learn which buildings will fall and which will stand. You learn where the survivors will be trapped and what tools you need to reach them. You become a student of a single day, and for a while, it feels like purpose. It feels like progress. Like maybe, just maybe, all this learning is building toward something. Like the universe trapped you here for a reason, and that reason is to become someone capable of changing things. So you push harder. You learn more. You study the disaster the way a surgeon studies anatomy. And slowly, the day stops being a nightmare and starts becoming a map. By month 3, you know the day better than anyone has ever known, any day in the history of the world. You know that at 7:14 and 12 seconds, the man in apartment 4B drops his keys. You know that at 8:07, a woman named Clara gets on the subway at 5th Street, sits in the 3rd car, always the left side, always near the door. You know that at 8:31, a pigeon lands on the traffic light at the intersection of Main and Cedar, and stays there for exactly 4 minutes and 12 seconds before flying away. You know the name of every shop owner on the street. You know their routines, their habits, their secret paths. You know that the subway conductor, a man named Hector, always checks his watch at 8:47, always adjusts his hat at 8:49, always makes the same announcement at 8:51. You know which gas line will rupture at 9:52, 5 minutes after the quake. You know which building will collapse first, which fire hydrant will burst, which bridge will hold, and which won't. You know the exact location of every trapped survivor because you've pulled them out, one by one, over hundreds of iterations. You know Clara has a daughter waiting for her at home. You know Hector has a brother in the hospital. You know the barista at the corner cafe is writing a novel in secret. You know all of this because you've talked to all of them. You've sat with them. You've laughed with them. You've watched them die, and then walked up to them the next morning as if nothing happened, because for them, nothing did. You are the only historian of a single day. You are the only witness. And this is where the loneliness starts, because knowing someone's entire life in a single conversation, and then having them forget you ever existed, does something to the soul. You can never build a real relationship. You can never share a memory with another person. Every connection you make is built on a foundation that vanishes at midnight. You are the only person in this world who grows. Everyone else stays frozen, and you love them. You love Clara and Hector and the barista and the man with the keys. You love them all, and none of them know you exist. And then, around month 5, something breaks. Not the loop. You. The experiments lose their thrill. The learning loses its purpose. The map you built of the day becomes a cage, because no matter how well you know it, you are still inside it. You wake up at 7:14 and feel nothing. The song on the radio doesn't annoy you anymore. The coffee stain doesn't bother you. Nothing bothers you. Nothing excites you. Nothing hurts. You've saved everyone 100 times and watched them all forget. You've died 100 different ways and woken up every time. You've learned every skill, read every book, walked every street, and now there is simply nothing left to do. The apathy comes slowly at first, a gray fog that settles over your mornings. You stop getting out of bed at 7:14. You just lie there. The alarm rings. You let it ring. The earthquake comes at 9:47. You feel the building shake. You hear the screaming, and you close your eyes and wait for midnight. Some days you don't even open them. Weeks pass like this. You stop eating. You stop talking. You sit in the dark of your apartment and watch the dust drift through the light and wonder if any of it is real. If you are real. If consciousness without change is even consciousness at all. You think about death, not because you want to die, but because death is the one thing that feels permanent. And permanence is what you crave most. You can't have it. The loop won't even let you leave. You try. You drive out of the city. You take the highway north. But the road always bends back. The sky always darkens at the same time. The earthquake always finds you. And midnight always resets the board. This is the darkest part of the loop. Not the deaths. Not the panic. Not even the loneliness. The darkness is the silence. The absolute, total, crushing silence of a mind that has run out of reasons to keep going. You are not alive. You are not dead. You are just stuck, frozen in amber while the world turns around you. And for a long, long time, that is where you stay. And then one morning, something shifts. Not because of a grand revelation, not because of a sign from the universe, but because of a small, stupid, ordinary thing. You're lying in bed. The alarm rings. Teen, the same song. And for some reason, you notice the light on the wall, the way it moves, the way it catches the dust. And you think to yourself, that light is different today. It isn't, of course. It's exactly the same light as yesterday. But the thought itself is new. The noticing is new. And for the first time in weeks, your mind moves. It's a tiny motion, a single gear turning in a rusted machine. But it's enough. You sit up. You get out of bed. You make coffee. Not because you want to, because you can. And then you do something you haven't done in a long time. You think about Clara, about Hector, about the barista and her secret novel, about every person in this city who will die at 9:47 if you do nothing. And you realize something that cuts through the fog like a blade. You never tried to save everyone at once. You saved individuals. You pulled one person out of the rubble, then another, then another. But you never built a plan to save all of them. Every survivor, every trapped soul, every person who matters, in a single day, simultaneously. It's impossible, of course, for any normal person. But you are not a normal person. You have 300 days of knowledge. You know where every person will be at every second. You know every tool, every route, every shortcut. You know which gas line to shut off and which fire to prevent and which building to prop up and which tunnel to clear. You have been assembling the pieces of a puzzle for months without knowing it. And the puzzle is this: one perfect day, one impossible, flawless, meticulously choreographed day where every single thing goes right, where you move through the city like a ghost, one step ahead of catastrophe, pulling every thread at exactly the right moment so that when the earthquake comes, no one dies. For the first time in months, you feel something warm flicker in your chest. It's not hope. It's too fragile for that. But it's close. It's the ember of purpose. And you blow on it gently, and you get to work. You spend 2 months preparing for a single loop. You rehearse every movement, every word, every second. You write nothing down, because paper doesn't survive the reset, but your mind does. You carry the plan in your bones. You practice the route in your head 1,000 times until it becomes as natural as breathing. And then one morning, the alarm rings. 7:14, the same song, and you open your eyes, and you know this is the day. At 7:14 and 12 seconds, you knock on apartment 4B and catch the keys before the man drops them. You tell him to stay home today. You tell him something will happen. He looks at you like you're crazy, but something in your eyes makes him listen. At 8:07, you're at 5th Street. You find Clara. You tell her to take the bus instead of the subway. You tell her that her daughter needs her. You say it in a way that she believes, because you've had this conversation 40 times, and you finally know the exact words that work. She gets off the train. At 8:31, you redirect the pigeon, because you know it triggers a chain of small events that delays a delivery truck, which blocks an intersection. which keeps 300 people out of a building that will collapse. Every detail matters. Every second counts. At 9:30, you shut off the gas line. At 9:35, you trigger the fire alarm in the hospital so the staff evacuate to the wing that will survive. At 9:40, you reach the subway control room and pull the emergency lever, stopping every train in the tunnel before the quake hits. 9:46, you pull a family out of a building that will fall in 60 seconds. At 9:47, the earthquake comes. The ground shakes. Buildings tremble. Glass shatters. Sirens wail. But the gas line holds. The fire doesn't spread. The subway trains are stopped. The hospital is evacuated. And one by one, across the city, people who should be dead are alive. You stand in the street as the dust settles. You can hear crying. You can hear sirens. But you can also hear voices. People calling for help. People helping each other. Living. Breathing. Surviving. You feel the ground steady beneath your feet. You look up at the sky. The sun is breaking through the dust. And for the first time in a year, the day doesn't feel like a prison. It feels like a gift. You walk through the city you have memorized, down to the cracks in the pavement. You see Clara holding her daughter. You see the man from 4B standing in the park, alive and whole. You see the barista, clutching a notebook, unharmed. You see Hector, directing survivors to safety, a hero on a day he'll never know he earned. And you feel something you haven't felt in so long you almost forgot its name. Joy. Pure, aching, desperate joy. The clock ticks toward midnight. You don't know if this will be the day it breaks. You don't know if saving everyone was the key, or if the universe simply got tired of watching you try. But you know that whatever happens, you did something that mattered. You took the worst day of your life, and you made it the best day of everyone else's. And as the seconds count down, you sit on a bench in the park. The same bench you sat on months ago. The same trees sway in the same wind. But everything is different now, because you are different. The clock strikes midnight. The world holds its breath. And then the light changes. The stars move. The air shifts. Something deep in the fabric of reality stirs. And when you open your eyes, it is not 7:14. It is morning. A new morning. The next day. And you are free.